Hi there. Welcome to Egg Space, the romantic podcast with undertones of horror. My name is Ava, and I'm going to be your reader for tonight. So, it was kind of challenging trying to make the transition from something that was strictly audible into something that's visual. So please be patient with me as I still do have a lot to learn. But I honestly hope you enjoy it because this was really fun to do, honestly speaking. So yeah, let's start the first episode. So this first story is called I Dreamt Our Shoes Fell in Love, and this is a very sentimental story for me as when I wrote it, I was in a very vulnerable mindset. So to read it now with the mindset that I have, I'm always like, oh my gosh, little Ava, are you okay? So it's honestly kind of trippy when you read old stories like that, and honestly, I still like this story. So you know what? Here, this story is dedicated to chapters closed, and if time is a place and not a measurement, then just know that there is always a place where you can find love. So, let's begin the story.
This thought came to me while I was mourning the loss of a past love. We're in San Diego. I'm sitting on the bed while he lays next to me. He's high out of his mind, no doubt. We both sit in silence. I stare at our pair of shoes, sitting innocently by the door. His are large black shoes, and mine are tiny white ones. "What are you thinking about?" he asks me. It's peculiar, since he's never one to wonder about my thoughts. With a shaky breath, I answer. I wanted our shoes to fall in love. He is a wanderer, but my shoes follow him all over the world. No matter how fast his shoes ran, mine were never too far behind. It's a young love, as they chase and prance with each other. One time, my shoes catch his dancing with another pair. My shoes would spitefully step on his and leave dirty smudge marks. His retaliates by bitterly kicking my heels. They would comically mace away from each other. It never mattered in the end, though. Soon enough, his shoes would inch towards mine and nudge them. My shoes would flinch at first, before facing towards his again. They kiss. When our shoes eat, they're swaying happily and facing towards each other. When they're flirting, mine are playfully rubbing against his. The best, I know, is when they're sleeping. It's quiet, and they're always next to each other. It rains sometimes on their adventures, but my shoes don't mind, because it's an excuse to step closer to his. He's annoyed, but smiling. I told you before, my shoes would often chase after his. What my shoes don't know is that his wait for me, without me knowing, so that mine can catch up. He doesn't like showing love in such obvious ways. They travel through streets and dirt paths. My shoe laughs as his steps into a mud puddle. They meet other shoes, but always keep each other in mind. His shoes ask mine where they want to eat. As mine shuffle in thought, his taps in annoyance. Time passes. They're dirty, but it's okay because they've aged together. In time, I know our shoes will be walking side by side. They're old and walk slower now, but it's life. And when the time is right, a pair of baby shoes would chase after ours. When I finish, he stares at me and softly says, "That's beautiful." I wanted our shoes to fall in love. I cry. I'm hugging myself. I wanted it so badly. Why can't it happen? He hugs me close, but not too much. This past love of mine is cautious of giving me hope. I have mixed feelings about this. His hands are holding my shaking shoulders. He's becoming emotional, but he knows he can't show it. We both know happy relationships don't end in breakups. With grief, I stare at our shoes. In my dreams, they fall in love. But that's all this is, isn't it? It's a dream.
So that was I Dreamt Our Shoes Fell in Love. What a dream, huh? Okay, so this next story is called They Are the Old Ones. And this is kind of like a fantastical piece I wrote that's based off the relationship between love and death. I'm sort of inspired by the tragedy of love, and this is kind of like a tiptoe into that concept, I guess. The story is actually a warm-up to a longer piece, so please look forward to that. Anyways, let's start.
They are old, though he is much older than her. He is one of the old ones, an ancient human race. Not many of them are left in the world. Even less is known about their existence. How did they come to be? What powers do they have? Where do they live? All we know is they age slower than the average human. In a place, two lovers meet and fall in love. She is 18. He is 117. She's astonished at his age and exclaims at how young he looks. He answers, explaining age is relevant for their kind. He might as well be a teen compared to other old ones. She's the type to meet his kisses fearlessly, grabbing him halfway when he reaches for her. Her love is spawned from a kind of foolishness, which is so naive it's pitiful. He humors her for a while before becoming bored. Despite being older, he treats her like a boy treats his toys. Pompously, his demands are nothing short but insane, especially in terms of physical needs. She bends over backwards for him, believing in the power of true love. Even when he uses her like a glorified love toy, she comes back time and time again. He realizes he's in too deep when one night she catches him with another woman. Her cries, raw and in despair, haunt him in the latest hours. It's unexpected. It's ridiculous. He thinks he's growing mad. Yet, the sight of her tears pulls on his heartstrings, and he knows it's too late. When she sees him again, he's on his knees and begging to be taken back. Any strong woman would leave him groveling. Unfortunately, she is young and stupid. Luckily, it's the last time he makes her the fool. She is 27, and he is 126 when it's just about right. Their bodies are about the same physically at this point. She's saddened at how much curvier she's gotten since her youthful days. How could she compare to the youthful glow and bouncy skin of those other girls? There's a deep-rooted insecurity her lover will stray again. But he doesn't. In the silence of the night, he holds her body in reverence. He will never leave her. He loves her far too much. Even when she is old and gray, he promises her body will always be perfect in his eyes. She laughs and doubts his sincerity. He spends every night proving it to her. She is 38, and he is 137. Intellectually, she is able to keep up with him now. No longer are her stories an excuse to talk, nor her choices so petty. She's grown into an amazing woman. They still make love, although it is less adventurous. There is something more wholesome about it. As he reaches up and frames her face, he can't imagine being happier. She smiles shamelessly. Marriage isn't really talked about. Neither have any real desire for it. There is, however, a desire in the woman's heart for something far more tender. His kind cannot have children. It's never researched why. They don't discuss it. Only one night, when she holds his hand and rests her head on his shoulder, did they allow their sorrow to show. When he makes love to her that night, it's very quiet She is 55, and he is 154. He knows she is getting old, and him far older. He debates leaving her, if only to save them both of heartache. He sits in the car, drumming his fingers and looking at his house. An hour passes by when he finally makes his decision. He opens the door and walks in as he always does, dropping his keys on the table, shrugging off his coat, and neatly taking off his shoes. Just as he is about to break things off, he catches sight of her. She is old, but still glowed with adventure. She is wiser, but still had this foolish, fearless spark in her eyes. She is his. That mouth, those eyes, her laughter. He knows he can never leave her. She is 78, and he is dying. He tells her he has to go home, where the old ones live. He won't die in a filthy town. He won't die here. When she begs him not to go, he looks at her with a familiar, possessive look. He tells her she's coming with him. I won't die here, he tells her. And I won't die there, she swears. The words settle in, and he realizes what she intends to do. Before he could say anything, she is crying and hugging him goodbye. It's unfair, he thinks, considering he had planned to leave her only years before. She tends to stay there, in their mortal town, while he goes back to his plan to die. She intends to die separately from him. She intends to die alone. He is too old to feel blind fury, too tired to face her stubbornness. He only asks for her to see him off. She agrees. They travel the desert, hand in hand, for any sign of a wandering race too lost and fantastic to be written in history books. But no one is there. They go to every country, search every crevice and shadow. They're climbing mountains and boating down rivers. No one. When she begins to wither away, he is cradling her head and whispering old love songs to her. It was a good life, he says. It was amazing, she replies. And there's that spark of humor in her eyes again. He watches the spark glisten before dying out as her body goes limp in his arms. She is dead, and he is too. The next time she wakes, she is formless. If you were to ask her how dying was, she would tell you the story of how as a young child she would close her eyes in the pool and let her body stay afloat on the surface. The slow movement of rocking and swaying on an uncontrollable current. This is what death is like. She feels anchorless. She doesn't know how many years, centuries, or millenniums pass before something tugs at her. The sensation is like a child grabbing the edge of his mother's dress. His being, familiar and warm, latches onto her like a barnacle. Their enjoined point of touching creates a love so tender it fills their hearts. Together, they pass through the stream of the afterlife, floating, awaiting to be reborn. Maybe this time, they may even be the same age.
And with They Are the Old Ones, this concludes the first episode of Egg Space. I know, again, it was a bit romantic, but that's just the way it is. Trust me, the next few episodes get like darker and darker and darker, and it's kind of like, it's sort of funny. You kind of see like how my mindset progressed from like, oh, so romantic, oh, this, spooky. So I'm really looking forward to reading those stories as well, but like I said, these little romantic tidbits have a really nice place in my heart, as it was just nice. Honestly, it was just nice. So yeah, I will catch you next time. Thanks for hanging out with me, and bye! Hi there. Oh, hi there. Hi there. So that, focus on me. Focus.